When you're tired of everything, it's not really everything you're tired of, is it? You see, weariness is not simply a matter of physical exhaustion. No, it's something much deeper. It creeps into the bones of your spirit, into the space behind your thoughts, and it whispers to you in moments of stillness. What's the point of all this? And that, my friend, is where the most beautiful part of being human begins, right at the edge of fatigue. Because when you are tired of everything, you're also dangerously close to waking up. For most of your life, you've been running, perhaps not always on your feet, but in your mind, running from mistakes, running toward goals, running because everyone else is running too. It's like participating in a marathon that no one remembers signing up for. Yet here you are, sweat on your brow, legs trembling, lungs burning, and then suddenly the finish line disappears, all that movement, all that striving, and then one day, what am I doing? What's any of this for? You feel the weight of routine, the dullness of repetition, the hollowness of endless achievement. It's as if life keeps placing you on a treadmill, and no matter how far you go, you're still in the same place. Now, you might believe this feeling means something is wrong, but what if it's the most natural thing in the world? What if you're supposed to get tired of everything? You see, a bird doesn't pretend to enjoy a cage just because it has food and water. So why are you expected to pretend that the cage you built out of thoughts and commitments is freedom? The entire structure of society is built on this idea. Keep moving, keep doing, keep trying to be someone. But have you ever asked who is it that you are trying to become? A mask, a role, a reputation. That inner fatigue, it's not a failure. It's the first sign that the mask is slipping. The performance is ending. The illusion is cracking. For if you've ever wondered why children seem so effortlessly alive, it's because they have not yet grown tired of themselves. They are not resisting life. They laugh, they cry, they play. They don't pretend to want things just because they're expected to. But you were taught to laugh only when it was polite, cry only when no one was watching. And play, well, that became something you could only do once you finished all your work. Yet here you are tired of the world you've built, the world you're expected to uphold, the world built on roles, labels, duties, and identities that feel smaller than your soul. And I say to you, wonderful, yes, truly wonderful, because it means something in you is finally refusing to participate in the charade. This tiredness is not the end, it is the beginning. It is your whole being protesting against a life unlived. You've pushed away your silence, ignored your intuition, dismissed your longing for simplicity, and stayed loyal to the circus of busyness. But life has a way of pulling you back to your own depths, even if it must use exhaustion to do it. It's like being caught in a stormy ocean. At first you fight the waves, thrashing, panicking, exhausting yourself, but eventually you surrender, not because you give up, but because something wiser takes over. You learn to float. Have you ever noticed that actual relaxation doesn't happen by trying to relax? It happens the moment you stop trying altogether. Perhaps life is like that. Perhaps meaning comes not from the endless pursuit of meaning, but from the release of it. When you're tired of everything, what you're really tired of is your constant attempt to control life. We humans love control. We build complicated plans, make rigid schedules, and cling to them as if life were obligated to follow our design. Yet life is more like water than concrete. It shifts, it bends, it flows. And most of our suffering comes from treating life like something solid, when in truth it is liquid. What if, instead of trying to shape life into certainty, you simply became curious about its movement? What if, instead of complaining about being tired, you listened to what the tiredness was saying? Maybe it's whispering, you don't need to do so much. Maybe it's saying, you can stop pretending now. Or simply rest. Rest not just as an activity, but as a state of being. Rest as in dropping the fight with existence, letting go of your grip on how things ought to be. That's what you're really tired of, the endless, unconscious resistance to what is. For just a moment, imagine. You stop trying to explain yourself. You stop needing to defend who you are. You stop chasing the next approval, the next achievement, the next identity, and in that space, there is just breathe, just presence, just life as it already is.
Now tell me, is that not what you've been longing for all along? Not more, but less. Not louder, but quieter. Not another goal, but the courage to sit in stillness and remember who you are when you're no longer running.
There is such beauty in that kind of surrender. It's not defeat, it's coming home. Coming home to the part of you that does not need to win because it is already whole. The part of you that does not need to prove anything because it simply is.
That, my dear friend, is the miracle hidden inside the fatigue. It is life's way of inviting you, calling you to lay down your weapons, to stop fighting, to stop striving, to stop forcing, and simply be. That's where the real awakening begins. And so, when you find yourself weary, not merely of labor, but of existence itself, you may notice a subtle tightness in your chest, a restless stirring as if life itself has grown too loud, too repetitive, too serious. This, my friends, is the human condition speaking through exhaustion. And it is here in this quiet desperation that the invitation appears, an invitation to stop. To stop not just what you are doing, but the very machinery of thought that tells you you must do something, anything, to fix yourself. You see, the modern mind believes that effort, perpetual effort, is the elixir of life. It believes that if one simply runs faster, works longer, or pushes harder, the shadows of weariness will dissolve. Yet, paradoxically, the faster you run, the more exhausting it becomes. The work becomes the chain, the labor becomes the cage. Consider a river flowing effortlessly toward the sea. It does not strain, it does not resist, it does not fret over its journey. It simply flows, yet in its flowing it carves valleys, nurtures life, and transforms landscapes. It accomplishes everything by doing nothing but being what it is. This is the subtle wisdom hidden in what we call idleness, in what we dismiss as laziness or inertia. To rest, to simply allow oneself to exist without constant interference, is not failure. It is alignment. The river does not ask if it is tired. It does not fret over whether it should go faster or slower. It knows in its own mysterious way that it will arrive. And perhaps it is only when we imitate this natural rhythm, this surrender to being, that the unbearable weight of exhaustion begins to dissolve. And what of our thoughts? Ah, how they clamor, how they protest, as if tiredness itself were a crime. The mind will say, "You cannot rest now. There is still so much to do, so much to think about, so much to solve." But here lies the quiet, paradoxical truth. The more you chase after resolution, the more fatigued you become. The more you fight against the current of life, the more turbulent your waters. There is a subtle art in learning to watch your mind as a sky watches clouds. Notice them drift, notice the shapes and forms they take, but do not seize them, do not struggle with them. Thoughts will arise and thoughts will pass. They are not your enemies, and you are not their prisoner. Even in weariness, there is an underlying stillness, a quiet awareness that is untouched by the shifting tides of worry and desire. Now, imagine yourself lying on the forest floor, the earth beneath you cool and steady, the sky above vast and silent. You hear nothing but the faint whisper of wind, the rustle of leaves, the distant song of a bird. In this moment you are neither accomplishing nor failing, neither striving nor retreating. You are simply here. And in being here, without the weight of expectation pressing upon your shoulders, you discover an almost imperceptible truth, that weariness, when embraced, is not a burden but a doorway. It is the threshold through which one glimpses the effortless continuity of existence. Life does not demand that you perpetually entertain it with motion. Life merely is, and you in your stillness are part of it. Consider the story of a musician who, after years of constant performance, finds herself exhausted and unable to play. At first she frets, believing she must continue, believing her worth is measured by the applause she collects. Yet one evening she sits quietly with her instrument, not to play, but merely to hold it, to feel the contours, the strings, the weight of it in her hands. And in that quiet, without sound, she begins to rediscover music, not as production, but as being. The music was never in the playing alone. It was in the attentive presence, in the communion between her and the instrument, between her and the silence around her. So too with life. Rest is not absence, it is presence. It is the space in which the melody of being is rediscovered, free from the incessant demands of doing. And here, dear listener, is the subtle practice. Allow yourself to witness your exhaustion without judgment. Let it come fully, like a tide rolling in, without resistance. Do not ask it to leave, do not label it as weakness or failure. Observe it as you would a storm at sea, powerful, relentless, yet temporary. And as you watch, notice a strange paradox. The moment you stop struggling, the storm begins to soften. You may even feel, amidst the heaviness, a strange lift, a lightness that arises not from doing, but from surrendering. Life, it seems, is always more than your fatigue, always richer than your worry, always unfolding in ways that defy your calculation. To watch without interference is to participate in life's secret rhythm. And so, when you are tired of everything, tired of people, of tasks, of thoughts, of obligations, remember that the very act of watching, of witnessing, is a return to yourself. It is a gentle, unspoken revolution against the tyranny of busyness. You may close your eyes and breathe deeply, or simply sit and notice the sensations of your body, the pulse of your heartbeat, the simple in and out of breath. All the while, the world continues its motion, unconcerned, effortless. And slowly, almost imperceptibly, you come to see, exhaustion is not the enemy, it is the messenger. It reminds you that you are more than productivity, more than effort, more than the endless clamor of life. You are simply alive, and so, as you lie, or sit, or wander slowly through the quiet spaces of your life, consider this: the very act of noticing, of watching without interference, is itself a subtle liberation. It is as if a weight has been lifted, not by changing anything, but by allowing things to simply be. You may think that rest is a pause, a temporary interlude between efforts, but in truth, it is a recognition of the truth that life itself never truly tires. Only the mind tires, only the ego becomes weary, because it insists upon carrying the whole of existence on its fragile shoulders. Yet you, in your capacity to watch and to allow, have glimpsed a deeper rhythm, a rhythm that does not demand, that does not press, that simply flows. And in seeing this, you discover a curious miracle: the tiredness, the weariness, the sense that everything has become too much. These are merely signs that you are beginning to awaken to the larger dance, the eternal play of being and non-being. Perhaps you have noticed the children at play, the way they move with such effortless delight. They do not calculate, they do not plan, they do not ask themselves whether this action is productive or significant. And yet in their movement there is a richness, a joy, a presence that adults often mistake for frivolity or naivety. We, grown and burdened by the weight of expectations, have lost touch with this spontaneous dance. And when exhaustion descends, it is often the body's way of saying, return to the child, return to the moment, return to the simple art of being. In watching life without interference, you are reclaiming this childlike freedom.
You are allowing yourself to step out of the exhausting masquerade of accomplishment, to step out of the endless comparison, the relentless striving. And what remains is neither nothing nor emptiness, but a profound, radiant presence, a witnessing consciousness that holds all things with gentle equanimity. Consider the metaphor of the sky. The sky does not cling to clouds, nor does it resist their passage. Storms may rage, winds may howl, yet the sky itself remains untroubled, vast, luminous. So too, in the moments when you are tired of everything, you can learn to be like the sky. Your thoughts, your emotions, your frustrations, they are the clouds. They pass, they change, but your true nature, the watching, aware, unbound consciousness, is untouched, and in realizing this, you may find a strange liberation, that it is not your job to control, to fix, to eliminate the tiredness. Your job is simply to notice, to allow, to breathe in the mystery of existence, and to exhale the illusion of separation. In this simple practice, life becomes less a burden and more a dance, less a trial and more a revelation. And then, as the mind grows quiet, as the frantic pulse of worry softens, you may begin to perceive subtle joys you had forgotten, the warmth of sunlight upon the skin, the faint murmur of wind through leaves, the gentle rise and fall of your own breathing. These are not trivialities, not mere background noise. They are the very texture of being, the unadorned poetry of life itself. When you are tired of everything, the universe offers a reminder. You are not separate from this poetry. You are the witness, yes, but you are also the river, the forest, the bird in its song. And in realizing this unity, in surrendering to it, even for a moment, you experience a relief so profound it cannot be described in words. It can only be felt quietly in the depth of your awareness. Now, notice this subtle paradox. The moment you stop resisting, the very things that exhausted you begin to shift. Tasks, responsibilities, worries, they have not vanished, but their weight is transformed. They are no longer chains that bind you, but elements in the flow of existence, like leaves carried downstream by a gentle current. And as you observe this, you may laugh softly at the absurdity of your earlier struggle. You may even discover a strange gratitude for your weariness, for it was the messenger that brought you here to this moment of insight, to this awareness of effortless being. Tiredness, when seen clearly, is not a signal of weakness, but of attunement. It is the universe whispering, slow down, watch, remember who you truly are. And in this remembering, you begin to act differently, not from effort, not from duty, but from a quiet alignment with life itself. Your actions no longer arise from the compulsion to prove, to achieve, or to control. They arise from a deeper sense of harmony, from a connection to the living rhythm that flows through all things. Even the smallest gesture, a smile, a gentle word, a touch of kindness, becomes infused with a depth and vitality that was previously hidden beneath the fatigue. You have discovered, perhaps for the first time, that rest is not absence, that surrender is not defeat, that simply being is not laziness, but an essential participation in the eternal, effortless dance of existence. And so, dear listener, when you find yourself tired of everything, let this be your practice. Watch without interference, breathe without hurry, and allow yourself the grace of simply being. Do not strive to fix your weariness. Do not wrestle with the inertia of your soul. Instead, become like the sky, like the river, like the child at play. Notice, observe, and in your noticing, remember that life is always alive, always moving, always unfolding, whether you push or not. In the embrace of stillness, in the surrender to presence, you discover a freedom more profound than any accomplishment, a joy more subtle than any distraction, a life more vivid than any task.